Hello, children. I'm one of course two kids. Welcome to your first video lesson of the year. We're going to start it off nice and easy with some numbers and patterns today. So by the end of this video, hopefully you are feeling good about seeing patterns, identifying patterns, keeping patterns going from where we're at. Those patterns might be number patterns, they could be shape patterns, it could be a combination of both kinds of patterns, but hopefully you are feeling good about where we are at with numbers and patterns. So let's say I had this pattern happening right here. This pattern right here, 64, 32, 16, 8, blank, blank, blank. Well, to see this pattern, I want to think about, okay, what am I doing here? What's happening in between each of these numbers? So I want to look and say, all right, how am I getting from 64 to 32? What am I doing here? Well, I'm doing a couple things. There's a couple different ways I can get from 64 to 32. I could either minus 32. 64 minus 32 is 32. Or I could divide by 2. 64 divided by 2 is 32. So that's the first step. The first step is just seeing, okay, what are some things I can do? How am I getting from one to the other? Now, to identify a pattern, I want to see, what am I continuing to do? Which of these two things am I going to continue to do in my next grouping of my pattern? When I go from 32 to 16, am I still minusing 32? Am I still taking away 32? 32 minus 32 is not 16. So that can't be my pattern. But I am still dividing by 2. 32 divided by 2 is 16. And we can continue that. That can still continue through here. We go 16 divided by 2 equals 8. So now in order to fill in my missing lines here, my missing parts of my pattern, I'm going to keep doing what I know I'm supposed to do. I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. And we know 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. And so far, we have completed our first pattern. So, just to refresh, to go back to where we're at, when we're looking at solving patterns, there's a couple things we want to do. We want to first say, what am I doing in between all of my numbers here? What's the math I'm doing? What kind of thing is happening from one object of my pattern to the next, to the next, to the next? What's being repeated? And then I want to repeat it. I want to keep going. I want to keep trying to solve whatever I'm doing in order to find more values in my pattern. So let's try that with another. Let's do another example of this and see, okay, what does that look like to do another example of a pattern? So let's say I have 2, 3, 5, 8, 12, blank, blank, blank. Well, this looks a little weirder. This doesn't make as much sense to me as before, but let's go through. Let's figure out a pattern here. So, how do I get from 2 to 3? Well, here I'm going to add 1. We all know that. 2 plus 1 equals 3. Great. Let's move on to the next one and see what happens here. Well, from 3 to 5, I'm going to add 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. From 5 to 8, I'm going to add 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. From 8 to 12, I'm going to add 4. So what am I going to do here to get from 12 to my next value? Are you seeing my pattern? I'm adding 1, adding 2, adding 3, adding 4. I'm going to add 5, and that's going to get me to 17. Now I'm going to take this 17 and I'm going to say, okay, well now I want to do what? I want to add 6. That's going to get me to 23. And now I want to add 7. That's going to get me to 30. So this pattern was a little different. This pattern, I want to look at the pattern that was formed in my adding. So every time I was adding, I was changing my pattern a little bit. So patterns come in different shapes and sizes. It's important to look at all the different aspects and see what's happening with this pattern here. All right, let me get this out of the way. Let's try something a little different. Let's say I have this pattern. What would my next 3 shapes be here? Square, triangle, triangle, square, triangle, triangle, square, triangle, triangle, square, triangle. And then I would imagine you could think triangle, square, triangle, triangle, forever and ever. This would be that pattern, right? This is just seeing, we've been doing this since we were little. We should be able to look at patterns, especially with shapes, and know how to continue having those patterns go through. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about that, but I do want you to know that this is kind of where we're at today with patterns. We're looking at, where are these patterns at? What do we got going on here? What can we do to be successful? So, let's say, one more time. I'm going to do one more pattern, and this is going to be your way to solve before we go. Make this bigger. All right, we're going to say, there's our first one. There's our second one. There's our third one. There's our fourth one. How many dots would be in our 5th value of this pattern? All right, let me know what you think, and let me know how you're feeling about this. I will see you all tomorrow so we can talk about it. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.